The massive overreaction to yesterday. Credit me and me alone. I know that Isaac Lowenkron, who was on Updates yesterday, and John Ramos both agreed with my pick, which was the Redskins, but only I, the whimsical wizard of me, told you that it would be, I said bigly, I used the president's word, which I think sometimes people think says big league, or maybe he says big league, but it sounds like bigly. This was a complete and utter mismatch. The Redskins stink, and the Bears are remarkable on defense, average at quarterback, and decent enough on offense. Right? And so they win by a sizable margin. Jay Gruden was already on the hot seat, but now it becomes incredibly obvious. Stop me if you heard this before, but maybe Case Keenum isn't good enough at quarterback. Remember the people in Minnesota when they signed Kirk Cousins, and Kirk Cousins had a quote-unquote disappointing season last year, throwing for over 4,000 yards. Maybe we should have stuck with Case Keenum. Yeah, how'd that work for the Rams? How'd that work for the Broncos? How'd that work for now the Washington Redskins? I mean, there's no greater sign you're going to get fired than if you announce Case Keenum as your starting quarterback to start the season. Don't believe me? Look what happened in L.A. with the Rams. Look what happened in Denver, and what's likely to happen with the Washington Redskins. Pretty remarkable, isn't it? All three coaches he started the season as the starter for, and I'm throwing in the fact that it looks like Jay Gruden, 6 years' time, probably up. That all three coaches ultimately get the axe. Pretty interesting. Then there's the other quarterback, Mitch Trubisky, or Mitchell Trubisky, whatever you want to call him. He wasn't great. Matter of fact, I could make the case that he hadn't even really been very good. Now, I laid out for you going back a couple weeks ago, that how they came to draft Mitchell Trubisky. But the end of the game, I mean, you look at the numbers, and it wasn't terrible. 25 for 31, 231, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. They were up 28-3 at the half, and they cruised to a victory. And here's the thing. I know that they are forever going to be known as the team that passed on not one, but 2 star quarterbacks. Deshaun Watson was in that draft, and of course, Pat Mahomes was in that draft. And Matt Nagy, coming from Kansas City, runs essentially the same offense with, well, 2 big differences. One, the talented wide receiver and tight end that they have in Kansas City. But 2, and this is most importantly, the quarterback is different. They're going to be the team that traded up to draft a quarterback that didn't draft Pat Mahomes. You got to live with that. But that's not what today should be about. That's not what last night should be about. That's not what their season should be about. The Bears are 2-1. If you want to make the case they almost lost to the Denver Broncos, that's fine. If that's the case, they almost beat the Green Bay Packers, and they'd be 3-0. Remember last year they won their division, got a home game, and lost. But the fact is that the Bears have rebuilt themselves as a defensive juggernaut. And I want you to ask yourself this. In the 35 years, right? Wasn't it 35 years since they won a Super Bowl? They've been to the playoffs 11 times, including last year. So 10 out of 34 years they've been. But in all of this time, even going back to when they won a Super Bowl in 85, or when they appeared in a Super Bowl against Peyton Manning and Rex Grossman was their quarterback. When did the Bears have a dynamic offense and a dynamic quarterback? Like, we remember the 85 Bears because the defense was the best historically in the league, maybe in the history of the league. They also had Walter Payton, an all-time great. They had William the Refrigerator Perry, who they gave the ball to instead of Walter Payton in the Super Bowl to score a touchdown. They annihilated everything in their path. We remember Jim McMahon, but that's because he fought the league. That's because he was a wild child, not because he was a great quarterback. And so I guess my point is I'm not going to sit here and convince you Mitchell Trubisky is a top 10 quarterback. I'm not. His numbers were efficient last night. He played well enough. He had 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. They won going away. And they were helped by the fact that the other teams that they've played, both in Denver and now in the Skins, don't have a good enough quarterback. I know they missed on a superstar. They missed on a guy who might set every record in the history of the league. And that one, it's going to be hard to live down. But that shouldn't be how you look at the Bears right now. Is he good enough? What does your job require of you? 25th in passing yards, second to last in pass per attempt, only averaging 193 passing yards per game. And you sit there and you're like, man, he threw for fewer yards last night and yards per attempt than both Carson Wentz and Dak Prescott did against the exact same crummy Redskins defense. The Bears defense forced 5 turnovers, including 1 interception return for a touchdown. So they won in spite of, not because of, Mitch Trubisky. But you know what? When you have that defense, when you have what they have around you, you don't have to throw for 400 yards. You don't have to line up every time and run oop-de-oop. You don't have to trick people and fool people. You can be conservative, and you could have an average at best quarterback and still have a spectacular team. Yes, the Chiefs have Pat Mahomes. The Chiefs smartly sat Pat Mahomes, and he learned. He became a pro, and Alex Smith trained him, and they put a good roster around him. And they might have the best skill position players in the entire league. But the Chiefs, going back to last year, even to this year, they need him to score 35 a game. They need him to be just a freak of nature. They have no chance of winning otherwise. That's not what's needed from Mitch Trubisky. Trubisky simply has to read the defense, deliver the ball, get it to guys in space, try and not take negative plays, run out of trouble, don't turn it over, be smart, occasionally make a big play when they call an explosive. But outside of that, the defense is awesome. The play calling is creative. And now that they have a relatively decent kicking game, he just needs to not lose them the game. And if you don't think that that works in the NFL, I give you, Rex Grossman. How'd that work out for you? So just remember what Matt Nagy said after they lost to the Packers. This is Matt Nagy.
A little combination of everything. I think, again, I give credit to Coach Pettin on defense. I said it to you guys last year. He's a good defensive coordinator, and he does a lot of good things, and they do some things personnel-wise that they're able to do. He's always done that. But at the same time, I think that whether it was in the run game, I know we had a bunch. We ended up throwing a lot more than passing, and for whatever reason, we did. That's not what we want.
That's not what we want. We want to be a running team. We want our quarterback to run it. Heck, even last night, they still, David Montgomery is not really a guy who they want to have carry the ball 25 times, but they'd like to figure out a way to do that. They won 31-15 with the Redskins scoring a late touchdown and having to go for 2. It wasn't as close as the final score. They played to their strengths, as what professionals do, and they won the game, and they're 2-1. I get that he's not Pat Mahomes. It may save them $15, $20 million a year that he's not Pat Mahomes if they choose to stand by Mitch Trubisky. Is Mitch Trubisky great? No. Is he bad? No. Is he good enough? I think the answer actually is yes. Hi, I'm Doug Gottlieb from Fox Sports Radio, and you need to subscribe to the Fox Sports Radio YouTube channel where you can hear and see me. Why not? Plus everybody else who's awesome here in Fox Sports Radio.